Everybody, today I will explain to you what acting out really means, and we will shed light on the question why the covert narcissist is such a buzzword in the internet and why the targets or victims of this form of abuse are so disoriented or triggered and really struggle to understand what happened to them. All right. So the topic is acting out because it's probably not what you think, and covert narcissism. But covert narcissism is for me the same, almost. Me as a mere mortal. It's the same as avoidant. An avoidant is the same as a covert narcissist, person with all kinds of avoidant attachment, whatever, as well as borderliners can also have strong avoidant tendencies. So everything that is very avoidant is a covert, and a covert is a borderline. So I use this interchangeably, and we will see that the acting out actually is working as a transition between self-states, and all the DSM-5 diagnoses that we have are not stable. They are switching self-states. So if you have a person that is diagnosed with borderline or any other DSM-5, through acting out, they can switch the self-states, so there is no constancy in this, all right? Also, in the later part of the video, I will introduce to you a theory of my own within the beautiful pseudoscience psychology. Okay, let's start with explaining what acting out really means. So we might think intuitively, oh, acting out means emotional outburst, a temper tantrum, somebody exploding in rage. That is not true, not necessarily at all. Acting out is a failure to remember an emotional traumatizing state, or it means that the person, or it means that you are able to remember what happened and you're able to verbally articulate it, but the person you talk to is deaf, deflecting, not being emotionally available for listening to that. In other words, there is a traumatic experience, a strong emotion that has happened within a consciousness, and then it is in one case repressed, and in the other case not allowed to be expressed. And this can lead to acting out, which means create the same situation or the same emotional quality again in an unsuspecting social environment, random social environment, without its consent. So a dedicated environment to express something like that would be you tell a friend or anyone, or even the abuser, somebody who created this for you, this emotional event, you tell them, we need to talk, I need to tell you something. Or you are in a therapeutic environment, and if you manage to remember what happened and articulate it, you don't have to act out. But if you are not able to remember what the quality of the emotion was and how it happened, you will compulsively, subconsciously recreate the same emotional quality in any given random social environment. Or in the other case, you can remember, you know it, you can articulate it, but the person you address it to is deaf, is not hearing it, is deflecting, is not available, is not there. Now let me quickly switch to the covert narcissistic abuse that disorients, bamboozles victims. It is because the covert narcissist most of the time comes in the life of people as a victim, portraying himself or herself as a victim, and thus forcing the other person into the role of the savior. Yet the covert narcissist also don't know his or her real identity. They don't have an identity core, they switch self-states and so on. Thus, they can picture themselves as whatever. A narcissist can create a new fantasy of who he is in the blink of an eye, overnight. Thus, there is no truth in whatever identity they present to you. They can only be deceptive. They are doomed to it, okay? And they will manipulate the power dynamic. It's like when you feed a street dog, at some point he will bite your hand, but he will only bite your hand once the power dynamic has covertly behind your back been switched so that he is able to do it. And you will feel you will be very confused by this, right? And this person that has been dependent of you completely. Okay, this street dog was dependent of you. It was a victim, it was a doormat. It was completely devoted. Now suddenly drops you like an object and shows you in a sadistic way the feeling of being betrayed and almost trying to reverse these roles, that now you are dependent, okay? Because this person will not allow you closure. They close, they ghost you. You are not there anymore. By this, they create the same emotional quality that made them a covert narcissist or a borderliner, whatever. And then switch the role. They recreate the same emotional quality. They acted it out. And by ghosting you, by stonewalling you, they are deaf. They don't allow you to address this. You know, you never can confront an avoidant. And in this process, in this acting out process, they also switch self-states. So the borderliner, the covert narcissist, becomes psychopath or something else within the DSM-5. And this is what disorients the people so much. What is this? You know, this behavior is beyond counterintuitive. Okay, now we got ahead of ourselves. So acting out means to recreate an emotional quality, a situation. And the reason for this is, in most cases, because the person cannot remember it. It's repressed, suppressed. It's a failure to remember and articulate in a dedicated environment. Thus, in a random social environment, it will be recreated. It is a compulsive surfacing of the same traumatic quality again. It circles. It is reoccurring circles of traumatic similar quality events. Yet, wait a second. My own theory comes a little bit later. And this is why it is so dangerous, and you cannot underestimate it, to help people who are traumatized. Broken people and all the DSM-5 have no constancy they have no identity core. They don't know who they are, and their self-image is based on a fantasy that they can switch overnight. And this goes from the avoidance till to the fully fledged sociopathic overt narcissist. So this does not matter. All of them share the fact that every identity they present to you is deceptive. They have no real identity to show you. Now my theory of how the self stages can switch via acting out. So how can a covert narcissist become an overt sociopathic narcissist? How can a borderliner switch to psychopath? You know? Why do they switch via acting out? I would suggest, my theory is that when they recreate the same emotional quality in a social environment, they try out new roles. Okay? So let's say there is an original root cause for their trauma in the childhood. So father humiliated them, mother rejected them. Then they will recreate the same situation within their social environments they're in, but then they switch roles. They become the savior. They become the perpetrator. So they try different versions of positions to the same situation. And depending of what combination of roles they pick for themselves and for others, their self-state switches. So when they are in the covert narcissistic state or borderline, they are rather the victims. They are rather seeing themselves as the victim. When they are in the psychopathic state, the power, the desperate need, exhibition of power by humiliating others, by overpowering them. There is healthy competition, there is no question. But these people have this unhealthy form of competition. For them, winning does not only mean to get what they need to live, live and let live. Don't, do to others how you want, treat others how you want to be treated. No. Take everything, make them know that you are the winner, and humiliate them in public. This is the sick mind of them, the power exhibition. And it's not about satisfying the basic needs for life. It's about creating a sick fantasy in reality. Okay? And depending of this sick fantasy and the roles associated with this, the self-state is manifested. So the covert narcissist, again, sees himself as the victim of betrayal. The sociopath sees him or herself as the controller of everything. Everything is just going as planned. The psychopath sees himself as the devil. He wants to be morally unacceptable. He chose to be evil. he is the dominating force by being evil. Okay. So for every DSM-5 diagnosis, you could describe a shared sick fantasy that explains why the person is in the state they are. And the switching of these states happens by recreating the same emotional quality, the traumatic experience, but taking a different position to it. Okay? Now you know what acting out means. It means to recreate a situation, an emotional quality, and it switches the self states of the traumatized, mentally sick person. And now you know also my theory of how the switching happens and why. And I also shed some light of why covert and avoidant narcissists disorient their targets so much, and that is because they can't be confronted, you never get closure, and they switch this dynamic. There's only one thing that comes close to this disorientation, I believe, and that is the sociopath that controls everything and lets others, based on the outcome of what happened, lets others assume and narrate the story. And this narration is false. So they make very good traps for everybody, so that they create an outcome of a situation like Jada Pinkett Smith, and everybody then believes, oh, Will Smith is this or that. Yet all of this is faked, okay? But this is not topic of this video. I just want to point out the only thing as tricky, or even maybe more tricky than the avoidant, is the sociopath, a highly intelligent sociopath such as Jada Pinkett Smith. All right? But for different reasons, and it would be too much for this video to put this in here as well. All right. Stay educated and see you in the next video.